Let's talk a little bit about club face. And a saying that I say often that is not my saying, it's very common throughout golf, is that club face is king. Where that club face is pointing when we hit this golf shot has a lot more to do with where the ball is going to go than our path. For irons specifically, where the club face is pointing has about 70% of the effect on where the golf ball starts. With the driver, when there's less loft, it's even more. So what I want to break down today is something that I want all golfers to be aware of. It's in your takeaway and also in your downswing. Where's your club face pointing? The ways you can check it, and how we can start to build some habits around changing our club face if it's pointing in a spot that we don't like. A position that I'm going to reference a lot is, I'm going to say the term a lot today, club parallel. And what I mean by that is when the club is parallel to the ground. In the backswing, we have a position where the club is parallel. And then in the downswing, we have a position where the club is parallel. And I'm going to refer to both of those today. And when we're shooting it on video, if we're shooting face on, in the backswing, it'll look like it's around here. And in the downswing, it'll look like it's around here. And then from the down the line view, on the face on position, it's going to be here. And in the downswing position, it's going to look like it's about there. Now, I have an alignment rod set up and I have a target out there in the distance. And I think it's important to always make sure we have that set up. Because now that I have a target, now I'm going to start paying attention to where that club face is pointing. A lot of players can do a pretty good job when they get set up to this golf shot of actually having that club face pointing where we want. But from here, we know a lot of things happen. And what oftentimes happens, that first checkpoint is when the club is parallel in the backswing. A pitfall for a lot of players is that club face can start to be open or it can start to be closed. For players that hit slices, it's very common that as they take the club back, they tend to roll it open and the club face starts to point towards the sky. For players that struggle with hooks, they'll take the club back to parallel and that club face will be pointing more down. I don't think a lot of people think of looking at that, but I think it's something that's very important. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I just have a quick favor to ask. You make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Always like my videos and make sure you hit that little bell to make sure that you get notifications when I drop more videos just like this. And as always, if you ever have any questions, please post them in the comments down below. I respond to every comment. Now back to your video. What I have here is a little training aid. Is I just have this little ball that goes on top of the club, and there's a red side and a yellow side and then a black side in the middle. And something that I think is so important for players, if you're curving in a direction you don't like, I want you to start checking two positions. If you slice it and your club face is open, as you take the club back, I want to know right now, is that club face open, which is showing all red? Is it closed, all yellow? What we're going to notice for a lot of players is that it's all red. And the reason that happens is something we're doing with our hands is rolling that club face open. Another thing that happens when the club face is open and the red is on top, our lead hand is pointing to the sky. I come in here, I take it back, my lead hand's pointing to the sky, my club face is open, I see all red. It would be the opposite for a lot of players if we hook it. That lead hand is down, we see the yellow, and that club face is closed. So something I want you to check is I want you to set up, look down at that golf ball, and then take the club back to parallel. And now have a look and see what your club face looks like. If that toe is pointing to the sky, we're pretty neutral, we're in a good spot. If that face is pointing down, it's closed. And if that face is pointing up, it's open. If you're a player that takes it back and that face is open and that left hand or your lead hand is pointing to the sky, the motion you're making in the backswing is you're rolling, I'm going to stick my thumb out here for the visual, you're rolling that club face open. The feeling that I want you to have is as we start to take the club back, we're not rolling our forearms. Our hands are moving back, being driven more by the chest and not with the arms. So let's feel like it's our chest that is rotating, and that is starting to move our arms, not our arms and hands being the driver of the golf club. The opposite would be true if we hook it, where we're a player that we take the club back and we really turn the hands down. In the backswing, if we see a lot of activity like this, I want you to think of it, your golf swing is very arms and hands dominated in the way that you start it. Whether you roll it inside or you turn that club head down, it's not so much driven by our body. Because right now, if I was to set up and if I was to put my hands together, and if I was to feel like I'm going to start my swing by rotating my body, and I'll give you this angle as well, just moving the body, there's not as much of this that's happening. So, to summarize what we have, and I have a great little visual here with this ball, I want you to set up, I want you to look at the golf ball, and I want you to make a backswing to club parallel. Then I want you to look and I want to know, is that club face open or closed? If it's open and you hit a slice, or if it's closed and you hit a draw or a hook, we know very early in the golf swing something we need to improve if we want to hit straighter golf shots. That's the easier one because I believe it happens very early in the golf swing. If we make a backswing and we get to a pretty good spot, the next thing that I want you to check is as you're coming down, as we're club parallel on the way down, is that toe still up? Is that face closed? Or is that face open? If we see open on the backswing and we see open on the downswing, that ball's going to the right 99% of the time. Anomalies can always happen. Hey, here's a little secret. Every week I send an email on Thursday mornings that gives you 3 things. It gives you 1 golf tip, it gives you 1 quote or stat, and gives you 1 little extra to help you play better golf and practice more effectively. To sign up, there's a link in my description. Make sure you get signed up because on Thursday morning, the next one's coming. If we see closed on the way back and closed on the way down, so here the yellow is up, that ball is probably going to go to the left very often unless we have a really bad mishit. So if you're working with a golf coach or if you're working on your own golf swing on your own, the thing I want you to keep in mind is where that golf ball goes has so much to do with where this club face is pointed. And I know that a lot of players want to swing like tour pros and they have these positions that we always work towards, and don't get me wrong, those are all very important. But at different times, if you're not seeing improvement, I need you to consider where that club face is in these 2 positions. Because with that feedback, if you miss to the right no matter what you try, and you look and the face is open in the backswing and the face is open in the downswing, we can start to work on what's a very simple change that can square my club face in the backswing and that will lead to a more square club face in the downswing. Now in both situations, it'll vary from player to player on what the cause is. But one thing that I want you to think of is when you take the club away, for players that struggle with club face open and closed, it's usually a lot of forearm or hands that are getting involved. It's not so much the body. I guess a little exercise we can go through, excuse me, is we get set up to a golf shot or an imaginary golf shot, and let's feel like our arms are connected to our body. We're not going to let them get away from ourselves. And all what I want you to do, we've connected these arms to our body. We have our hands facing together. And all what I want you to do is feel like you're turning your chest and your hips. And as you make this move back and forth, what I want you to notice, as this is turning and as this is turning, it's carrying or transporting those arms. We don't have to do it with the actual arms. And for players that are very active with their hands in the takeaway, if the instruction that we give them is I want you to feel like you are turning your body to start your backswing, It's amazing how quickly it becomes less of this motion and more of that motion of our big body parts carrying that club around. So if you struggle with club face control, especially in the takeaway, I think an easy opportunity I want you to consider in your mind, how do you start your golf swing? Do you start it very hands dominant and ripping the club face open or slamming that club face shut? Or do you do it with your body? I think that's a fantastic starting point for most. And for a lot of players that struggle with that, I go to body first, and oftentimes a light goes off for a lot of them saying, wow, I really tried to take the club away a lot with my arms and my hands. And that's why that club face moves all over the place. As always, please keep in mind that these tips will vary from person to person. I'm just making some observations in terms of what I see often. But I always encourage, whether you reach out to me for golf lessons or find a local golf pro, and if you go to them and you have an undesirable ball flight and you go to them and say, I need to know why my club face is open or why my club face is closed. If you walk into a lesson for the first time and you said you have a club face problem, you're telling coach where to look. Hopefully they're a good coach to look there, but you're showing up a little bit more educated in terms of what that club face does. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel. Make sure you get notifications and like this video. And if you ever have any questions, please post them in the comments down below.